Yeah. Just a few questions to the first speaker. Firstly, I was fascinated by all your charts and data, but I was wondering how accurate do you think particularly the data would be on say, homosexuals in the Caribbean, where there's a good deal of stigma against this population. So I just wondered about, you know, how realistic it is to actually put figures up, you know, when obviously many people are not going to be reporting for that. And I have a couple more questions. The other is, it was very remarkable, this huge amount of money going to Haiti, and yet I don't see any real change or improvement in Haiti to speak of. Then you look at, in Africa, you look at Botswana. Botswana's the richest, almost the richest country in Africa, has 38%, I think, or more, HIV infection. So we've tended to assume that HIV and poverty go together, but in actual fact, poverty is only one factor, because it doesn't make it, if that were true, then certainly Botswana would not have the rate it has. So I'm asking, how do we factor in issues around class, culture, and all these other factors which are clearly playing a role? And just very quickly, just to tell you, I taught a student, when I was teaching at the LSE, I had a Zambian student from the educated elite. Her friends, this is a young woman, her friends made fun of her for worrying about getting HIV. These are educated, privileged, elite Zambians saying, everybody gets HIV. Don't be such a spoiled sport and worry about this.
Okay, thank you. The first question is about the MSM issues. I think we have been able, or men who have sex with men, I understand very much it is a difficult issue in this region. However, the best way to work with somebody is to, the best way to know somebody is to work with that person. And generally, all the surveys which we have conducted have been conducted by the community itself, their involvement, their understanding of the methodology we want to use, and their application of that methodology. And generally speaking, recently, I will say, in collaboration with the CDC, we were able to develop a novel methodology which slowly has brought us from the snowball sampling to, I will say, much more a probabilistic area, which is called the respondent-driven sampling. And it has really helped, for example, the last survey which we have done in the Dominican Republic, it has helped us to be able to reach out to 1,700 MSM selected on a probabilistic basis. So it is a challenge, but we are working on it to improve it as much as possible. And one point which is important, though, is when we look at, and that's where I'm kind of thinking very carefully, when you look at the countries which have legalized homosexuality with countries which have already something about what could be the behavior in an environment which is really criminalizing. And that is very, very important to keep in mind. And the second point, which is about poverty and HIV, I believe there is a link there, but what is specific in the link is what I have demonstrated, which is the Gini index. For example, when I came to this region for the first time in 1995, I have looked at the HIV data, or the AIDS data at that time, I will say. And what I have noticed is that the richest countries, the three of them, were on the top, and beside them were the three poorest countries. And that means simply something for us. It means simply that if Haiti, Bahamas, and Barbados could be compared at that time, it means simply that being rich is not really making, so-called the GDP, because that richness is really based on the GDP, is not really telling us a lot. But the distribution of income, the distribution of the economic wealth is the most important in any given country. And that is really the point which we have really to get through to, even in a poor country, even if you have two poor countries, if you look at the Gini index within those countries, you will see really a difference, and generally that difference is tied to the vulnerability to malaria or tuberculosis or HIV. And that is one of the big markers which the World Bank and UNH are really promoting to really use and measure as much as possible. And in the case of Haiti, I will say yes, there is some improvement, because at the beginning we had a 6% prevalence rate among the general population, and now we have a 2.2%. And of course the measurements have improved, but clearly there is certainly an improvement in that area, that things are going well. However, what is important, and we have to make sure that we explain it, the big amount of money which is going to Haiti is managed by the big NGOs who are coming from the big countries. Meaning the majority of the money is going back. It is not staying in Haiti. That means the structures which are supporting or supposed to support the national response to HIV are not existing in Haiti. The government does not exist in Haiti. So the public sector is almost dead. The reality is simply that, as I have said, those NGOs are doing work, and if you look at all of them, but the majority of them are really tied or are represented by the big NGOs coming from outside. As our people who were here were talking about how the big NGOs coming from outside and the local reality are different. They're coming, they're doing the work, they are reporting, but clearly nothing is staying when this supportive environment is not really there.